guys, it's Kelly from Cards by Christine here with you on a Technique Thursday to share with you the Emboss Resist technique. What do you think of that? I love this technique and pair it with our new blending brushes, and this technique is super simple and creates stunning results. So I'm going to show you how to do this technique and let's get started. So we're going to put that there. This technique is going to take a little bit of maneuvering on my part. I've got a lot of kind of stuff. So don't mind me as I kind of get set up and ready to go. So if you can see here, let me bring this back in the frame. I'm using the new beautiful Butterfly Brilliance stamp set, and this set comes with dies and there's a whole bunch of fun new stuff. It's in the new annual catalog that's launching later this year, but it's a preview product that they're releasing early. And we'll get more details on that for you, but I think it's releasing next week. I'm sorry I don't know the date off the top of my head, but I'll get you that information shortly. So it is one stamp. So check this out. It is all of these beautiful butterflies are one stamp, and then there's coordinating dies, and the dies are really beautiful. They, first of all, cut all of the butterflies out, but then there's other dies as well that have more detailed dies. It's really cool. So to do the Emboss Resist technique, and now earlier this week Chris showed the just tips on embossing. So if you don't know how to emboss or are not familiar with embossing, definitely check that out. I'm not going to go into all of those details maybe too in depth, but they're out there if you need to know how to emboss. But we are taking our Versamark. Versamark is a clear ink. You also could do white craft ink if you wanted. But we're going to, and I should have had this a little more prepped. We're going to put our paper over the stamp. Now this is a background stamp, and so I like to just place my paper on top of the background stamp and then take a piece of scrap paper and use my hands. It's kind of like inverted stamping per se, because instead of pushing the stamp and using your table or your hard surface, you're kind of doing it backwards. But that's how I like to do background stamps. So now it's all stamped. You're going to peel it off. And it's clear, so you probably won't see real much of it, but maybe you can kind of see a little bit of it glistening as I move it through the lights. Then we're going to take our clear embossing powder and cover the Versamark. If you haven't seen Chris's video on embossing yet, check it out. She's got so many great tips. You know, you guys may think that I am a super savvy stamper, and I can be from time to time, but I learned so much from Chris, and she just knows what she's doing. She's the best. Okay, so now if there's any extra embossing powder on the paper in a place that you don't want it to be, it will emboss there. Now again, I don't know if you're seeing any of this, but there's some up here. So just kind of gently brush away. Maybe blow some of it if there's extra on there, but try to get off any embossing powder that's lingering in places you don't want it to be. Then we're going to move on to the actual heat embossing. So we're going to turn on our heat gun, give it a couple seconds to warm up before we start embossing, and then take your butterflies and emboss it. Now, as Chris explained in the other video, what we're doing is heating up these pieces of like minuscule, essentially plastic pieces. So we just want to watch as it turns shiny. I don't know if you can see any of that. We're doing white on white, or in this case, kind of clear on white. So it's maybe hard for you to see that. So don't worry, you will be seeing some magic shortly. I promise. Okay, set your embossing gun aside. Okay, so you can kind of see your butterflies. All right, so now I'm gonna get this set back up. And what we're gonna do is take our blending brushes and apply color to the background. Now, where you've embossed, the color won't stick. So you'll get these beautiful butterflies in white as you're coloring the whole background. So what I used in addition to our blending brushes are 3 colors: Seaside Spray, Highland Heather, and Rich Razzleberry. I started and went lightest to darkest. So just take your blending brushes, get some pigment on your blending brush and apply it onto your card base. Now, this Seaside Spray is quite a light color. So you see how light it is compared to my card sample? You can keep layering the ink until it is the desired color that you're going for. I wanted it to be a little darker than, just a single pass, so I'm gonna be layering quite a few different layers on here. And I'm focusing on the top first, and then bringing it down as the ink weakens. I don't know if that really makes sense. In my head it makes sense, but essentially we want it to gradiate from one color into the next. So you want to have full strength up here and then kind of like half strength where it starts to go into the purple. So I'm trying to start on top and bring it down as the ink starts to wear out. And if you're noticing, I didn't mention, but kind of make sure that you're blending in circles. That'll help make your blend look the most seamless. Also, don't stay exclusively on your paper. You definitely want to protect your workspace with a piece of runoff paper or scrap paper behind and utilize it. Don't be afraid to get, start off and work your way in. Now, your middle color is going to be at its full strength in the middle of your card, but it needs to go up and down with its essentially half strength so that it can blend into the other colors. So I'm using here Highland Heather, and I'm kind of just starting in the middle and circling up and down to blend it into the Seaside Spray, and then I will also move it down in just a minute. for where it's going to be blending into our rich razzleberry. And this is all personal preference, so you kind of go until you think it looks nice or you think it looks how you want it to. So there's no right or wrong answer to making cards. If you're doing something you love and you're making something beautiful to share with someone you love, you're doing it right. Right? Can we all agree on that? Okay. Just a little more of this Highland Heather, and then I'm going to switch to the rich razzleberry. Now, when I did my sample card, it was a lot stronger of a color than the other two, so I am going to try to do it a little less strong. I don't know what word I'm looking for, but a little less potent than I did on my sample card. And you'll notice something that startled me when I made my sample card. In comparison to the other two, the butterflies kind of pick this color up, if that makes any sense. Now, don't be alarmed. It will wipe off, but it does kind of scare you. If you're going to case this exact card, you will likely notice the exact same thing when you're doing your card. So don't be alarmed, but have a paper towel handy so that you can wipe that off. Otherwise, it really does kind of muddy up the look of the card. So don't be scared. We'll take care of it. We'll take charge. All right, so I think I like that transition. And now, as promised, I'm gonna take our paper towel and kind of release that color from the butterflies. I started with a dry paper towel just to get off any of the dry ink, and then I did wet it a little bit. You want to be careful because if you get too much water on the just card itself, it's really going to change the color. And you know what? To be honest with you, I don't know why this color did it so much and the others didn't. But because these are the colors I chose, you know, it's just something that we have to work with. So I'm just going to try to clean it off of the embossed areas. Now, even before I knew this was happening, this is how I laid out my card. So you don't need to worry too much about it because we are going to put our label over the top of it. But just know it does not look perfect because I did have to pull some of that color off the background as I was getting the color off of the embossed parts. But essentially, this is your emboss resist background. What do you think? I love how it makes the butterflies pop off the paper. And I do also like that it's kind of inverted because typically you'd see a bright, colorful butterfly, and now you've got all the focus on the background, and the butterflies are just white floating in the foreground. So to finish off the card, we have a card base that is Seaside Spray. It is a traditional card base. So we've got 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. Then we have a card, a rich razzleberry matte. And if I had to guess, because I didn't cut this today, I recall, I think it is just a traditional card base at 5 1/4 by 4, and then we've got one more matted down, which would be 5 by 3 3/4, and that would be basic white. Then we used our Butterfly Brilliance stamp. We used Versamark, and we used clear embossing powder, as well as the heat gun. Then we have a 1 inch by 4-ish basic white stamped with Happy Birthday from the In Bloom stamp set. That is stamped in Rich Razzleberry. Then we have a 1 1/4 by about 4 that is finished off using the triple banner punch. We've got rhinestones and a couple dimensionals behind the end of the banner to make it look like it's fluttering in the breeze. I don't know. And of course, let's not forget the supplies from the technique that we already talked about, but we've got our stamp pads in Seaside Spray, Highland Heather, Rich Razzleberry, and of course, blending brushes. So I think that's all we got for our technique today. What do you guys think? Have you ever used the emboss resist technique? Do you emboss often or ever? It's a really fun technique. It is, as you may have heard Chris say before, what sold Chris on stamping. It's what got her started all those years ago, and look what a beautiful empire she's built from it. I simply love being a part of this stamping community. It brings me so much joy and happiness. And I'm so happy to be with you today to share this with you. So if you do the emboss resist technique, if you go ahead and make a card, let's see, there we can kind of get some of the color. If you make a card using this technique, we would love for you to share it with us. We love to see what you create. If you have any suggestions on how to do this technique that maybe I didn't cover or I don't know about, please share them in the comments. We all are constantly learning, so I love to read your comments and learn right along with you as I try to learn, or as I try to teach and inspire you guys all. So I hope you have a great Thursday. The weekend is in sight, and we will be seeing you later tonight.